What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. We got some news really quickly this morning, and that is Pascal Siakam will be making his season debut Sunday versus the Brooklyn Nets. Now, it was announced last week that he's about 2 weeks away, and I was hoping to drop this a few days before we got the announcement, but it was announced so quickly. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about who should stay in the starting lineup and who I think the Raptors should move to the bench. Now, just to note, Aaron Rose did tweet this out that Nick hints at possibly changing the starting lineup every night. He discussed doing this before, but hasn't. Now, I do want you to keep this in mind because this is going to tie in with what I have to say at the end of the video. And I also do want to mention one thing, guys. One thing, so that is my last trivia question. It seems like very few people got this right, and it's almost like that question you get in your exam that very few people get correctly, and they're all asking the teacher what the right answer is. So the question was, before Scottie was picked 4th overall, who was the highest drafted Raptor in the previous keyword decade, guys? Decade. I put that there on purpose. A lot of you guys were saying Andrea Bargnani was chosen 1st overall, but the previous decade was 10 years ago. So it's 2011 and onwards, and Jonas Valanciunas and Jakob Poeltl were drafted, and obviously Fred VanVLEET's undrafted. But it was between those two players. Now, it is to note, Jonas Valanciunas was chosen 5th overall. Jakob Poeltl was selected a little bit, few spots below that. So Jakob Poeltl was not the highest drafted player. That was Jonas Valanciunas. And only a handful of you guys got this question right. And the first person to answer this correctly gets a shout out. And that was Sher Khan was the first person to answer that correctly. So Sher Khan, great job of getting that question right. And thank you for supporting this channel with your likes and comments. And if you guys want a shout out, make sure you answer my trivia question first and before anyone else does. The first person to answer it correctly gets a shout out. And with that being said, guys, let's get into today's video. And that is, I want to do a little process here for you guys. I'm going to go player by player and why I think that player should stay in the starting lineup. And I'll ultimately give you my decision of who I think should move to the bench. So I'm going to go player by player and give a little check mark of whether I think they should stay in the starting lineup. And let's start with Fred VanVLEET. So Fred VanVLEET, he was struggling out of the gates, and a lot of people were saying we should just play Scottie Barnes at the point guard position. But ever since, Fred VanVLEET has really stepped it up, and he's been playing really well. He's had a huge game where he averaged about 17 assists, and he's averaging 18.7 points per game. He's also averaging a good amount of rebounds for his size, and 7.1 assists isn't too bad as well. That ranks him 11th in the league, and he's also doing this while playing some really good defense and giving you 1.5 steals a game. I think this is an absolute given that Fred VanVLEET, he is not moving to the bench, and he is here to stay. He is staying in the starting lineup. I don't think you have to emphasize too much on Fred VanVLEET staying in the starting lineup. I think that's a given. He is our leader, and I mean, rightfully so. He deserves to be in the starting lineup. So let's move on to our second player here. And that is Gary Trent Jr. And much like Fred VanVLEET, he started the season a little bit slow, and people were even questioning why we gave Gary Trent Jr. $18 million. But ever since, he has been doing a really good job of not forcing his shots, but also playing really good defense as well. Now, I want to get to the defense in a bit, but he's averaging 15.3 points. Rebounds is, look, his rebounds is what it is. He's not a really big rebounder, nor is he a great passer as well. So that's something we'll maybe talk about in the future if he improves on. But I do want to talk a little bit about those steals. Now, a lot of people have said that we should move Gary Trent Jr. to the bench. Now, the case for Gary Trent Jr. for staying in the starting lineup, first of all, is his scoring. We need his three-point shooting, as well as him doing a really good job of taking those jump shots. We know the Raptors in the previous seasons have really taken a lot of three-point shots, and we needed a little bit more points within that three-point line. So he's doing a great job of hitting those jump shots. He's also a great catch and shoot guy as well. And those 3.1 steals are huge because we know the Raptors love to run. That's how Nick Nurse has the Raptors playing their offense, their transition offense. A lot of those steals turns into points. So having Gary Trent Jr. is a big part of, having those transition offense, having that, and then great defense. And as I said, guys, he does stretch the floor as well. So I think Gary Trent Jr., for a lot of people were saying that maybe we should move him to the bench. I think it's safe to say that we should definitely keep him in the starting lineup. He does provide a little bit more size than Fred VanVLEET, so he's doing a pretty good job of defending the shooting guards, opposing shooting guards. So I think it's Gary Trent Jr. should be a safe lock to be in the starting lineup. And now let's move on to our third player, and that is OG Anunoby. So OG Anunoby has been having a really good season this year. Now, this is a season we were kind of hoping for last season, but in the absence of Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby has really stepped it up. 20.6 points per game, 5.6 rebounds. His assists are improving a little bit as well, and he's obviously doing a tremendous job of playing great defense as well. He's been our main guy on offense. I think this should be an absolute no-brainer. I don't have to emphasize too much on this, and nor do I have to convince you that OG Anunoby is here to stay in the starting lineup. This is something we were hoping for, in the previous seasons, of him and Pascal being that number 1 and number 2 option. So OG Anunoby has really stepped it up. It's going to be exciting to see OG Anunoby in the starting lineup along with Pascal Siakam. I'm really excited to see how those two kind of gel together. And let's talk about Scottie Barnes. Now, Scottie Barnes, there's obviously been a lot of praises for Scottie Barnes. He's been absolutely huge for the Raptors. He's done it all. He can play point guard. You can play him at the power forward. You can really play him at any position you wanted. So for the season, he's averaging 17.6 points per game. It's also giving you 8.9 rebounds as well. And he's also doing this shooting very well from the field as well as playing good defense, but he's also providing some passing ability as well. Now, I may not show it by his numbers. You may look at the numbers and say it's only 2.3 assists, but we know that Scottie Barnes is very well capable of giving you 6, 7, 8, 9 assists per night. I just don't think he's really been forced to do that because Fred VanVLEET's had the ball in his hands a lot, but also because of the role that Nick Nurse wants him to play. Nick Nurse wants him to be a little bit more aggressive, but Scottie Barnes is very interesting because he's able to facilitate and do so many different things. And with that being said, that is the player I am going to move to the bench. Now, I know you guys are going in the comment section. You're going to go at me and you're going to say, I don't know anything about basketball. I'm going to agree with my friend JJ Buckets, actually, who released a video of, a similar video of who should go to the bench. But the reason, guys, I say this with Scottie Barnes moving to the bench is, think about this for a second. Scottie Barnes moves to the bench because he gets more shots available. Think about this and stop for a second. Fred VanVLEET is going to be taking 10, 15 shots a game. Gary Trent Jr. is going to be taking anywhere from 9 to 15 shots. OG Anunoby is going to get his 12 to 18 shots. And with Pascal Siakam returning, who's easily going to be taking 12 to 20 shots per game, where does that leave Scottie Barnes? That doesn't leave him with a lot of touches. I think that hurts his development. And yes, you can make the argument that he is definitely a part of our future and he should be playing with these guys. But I think when you put Scottie Barnes on the bench, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, obviously, this is what our starting lineup, or I would project our starting lineup should be. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be, but obviously Fred VanVLEET, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, Pascal at the power forward, and Precious Achiuwa in the starting lineup. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about we should move Precious to the bench and have Scottie Barnes playing the center position. We can slide OG. There's been question marks about that as well. But stop for a second and think about this before I talk a little bit about Scottie Barnes as well. When you move Precious Achiuwa to the bench, this is essentially what our bench is going to look like. So you essentially have Cam Birch, Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher. So you essentially have 3 big men. We're going to have a lineup similar to how the Cleveland Cavaliers have been playing Lauri Markkanen at the small forward position. And personally speaking, I'm just not comfortable putting Chris Boucher at the small forward position or even Precious Achiuwa as a small forward. I think it makes no sense for that reason why I believe that Precious Achiuwa should not be going to the bench and Scottie Barnes should be. Because, look, you put Scottie Barnes there, this bench looks way better. And we know Scottie Barnes and Delano Banton have been playing really well together. And when you look at the bench, you look at Scottie Barnes, he's going to be the first guy coming off of the bench. And he's going to get a lot more touches and he's going to be facing, not that he needs to be facing the other team's bench because obviously Scottie Barnes has been playing really well this season, but he's going to be playing against the other guys' his second unit. So Scottie Barnes, we know he can handle the ball. He's going to get a lot more shots when he's playing on the bench. He's going to get a lot more touches and he can be the main facilitator. We can play him in very different styles, So if we do keep Precious Achiuwa on the starting lineup, I think the reason I keep him there is because you have 4 guys who need the ball. Pascal, OG, Fred, Gary Trent Jr. needs the ball in his hands, and Precious doesn't really need that ball. So I think you can't have 5 guys in your starting lineup that all need the ball or want the ball in his hands. And I'm not saying Scottie is the guy that wants the ball in his hands. He can definitely play off ball. There's no doubt about that. But I just think the impact that Scottie Barnes will make off the bench is much larger than he will in the starting lineup. I don't think he'll get nearly as many touches. I don't think he'll get as much action if he's kept in the starting lineup. Whereas when he's on the bench, he'll see a lot more action. He'll get the ball in his hands a lot more. So that is the reason why I believe Scottie Barnes should be on the bench. And look, guys, it's ironic I say that because I do want to show you this tweet, and I talked about how it's going to be really strange to play Khem Birch and Precious Achiuwa and Chris Boucher on the bench. But Aaron Rose, again, tweeted this as well, saying Nick says getting Pascal Siakam opens the possibility of some Birch, Achiuwa-less lineups. I don't expect Toronto will start that way, but I do expect we'll see it. So again, guys, that is just my opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen. You can disagree with it, but it'll be fun to see the different lineups we'll see. As I showed you guys in the start of the video, that tweet I showed you where Nick Nurse said he's going to be potentially changing the lineup every game. So that, again, we play the Brooklyn Nets, and you can easily start Scottie Barnes at the center position because the Brooklyn Nets don't really have a center they can start. Unless you're talking about LaMarcus Aldridge, and even then I think Scottie will run him off the floor because of how fast Scottie Barnes is, and he'll just drive past him. So it'll be interesting to see how the lineups are with the different teams we face this year. And it'll be interesting. Again, guys, I want to ask you guys though, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with my take? You can let me know in the comment section below. And as always, guys, there will be a trivia question. And that trivia question for today is, which of these players were not a part of the trade that sent Rudy Gay to the Sacramento Kings? Is it A, Ed Davis, B, Aaron Gray, or is it C, Quincy AC? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, guys, and I will be providing a bonus clip as well. And what better clip to provide than of Pascal Siakam? So I hope you guys enjoyed my video. I hope you guys enjoyed this clip, and you can always let me know your thoughts below. I know there's been a lot of talk about Scottie Barnes should stay in the starting lineup, but that is just my take. You can disagree with me. Let me know in the comment section below, guys, and thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.
Started by McCall. He started the game, did not start the second half. The help D comes. Here comes Siakam. OG back up top. Whoa! Oh, Pascal! Wow. From OG. Oh my!